Broadcasting to Wales, your Rugby World Cup station. We have the day's highlights in half an hour. First, the news with Katie Durham.
Blair's big Euro launch. Hague hits back tonight. Pakistan's army leaders finally show their hand. Dando murder. New twist over car spotted near scene. And how Wales lost but won a new world record.
From ITN, the ITV Nightly News with Katie Durham.
Good evening. The Conservative leader William Hague announced tonight that he's to mount what he's calling a full-blooded nationwide campaign to save the pound. Mr. Hague says he intends to travel to every part of the country between now and the next election to get his message across. It follows the launch of the Britain in Europe campaign, where leading pro-European Tories joined forces with the Prime Minister to talk about the advantages of closer ties with Europe. Here's Michael Brunson.
This morning the Prime Minister was at the Britain in Europe launch in London. Tonight he's in Finland attending a special summit meeting of European leaders tackling organised crime. But following his hard line on Europe at the Conservative Party conference, William Hague tonight announced his Battle for the Pound and Battle for Britain campaign. Nowhere, Mr. Hague said, will be too far from London to hear this message, because no one in Britain will be immune from the effects of abolishing our currency. It was, however, precisely that argument which the Prime Minister sought to rebut this morning.
To be part of Europe is in the British national interest. This is a patriotic cause, therefore. The people here represent a patriotic alliance that puts country before party.
Michael Heseltine and Kenneth Clark backed Mr. Blair's join the single currency when the time is right position, with Mr. Heseltine recalling how Lady Thatcher used to get her way in Europe.
You can't wield a handbag from an empty chair.
And the Liberal Democrat leader, Charles Kennedy, said that firm support now in Britain for the European ideal would make the eventual single currency decision easier. But William Hague is utterly convinced that most of Britain is against the single currency and further integration with Europe. Nonetheless, he has commissioned a special campaigning roadshow truck, complete with display materials and a rear-mounted speaking platform with which to travel the country to ram the message home. Michael Brunson, ITN, Westminster.
In the last hour, the new military regime in Pakistan has declared a state of emergency. At the same time, the army chief made himself chief executive and suspended the constitution. Robert Moore sends the very latest from Pakistan by satellite phone link.
Tonight it's clear the military coup has been consolidated and the generals are in charge. But they also know that Pakistan faces international isolation unless civilian rule is quickly restored.
And now it is abundantly clear the military will not be handing over power anytime soon. Earlier, troops had entered and evacuated the Parliament building in a clear sign of their intentions. And in the last hour, in an extraordinary TV announcement issued in the middle of the night here, a state of emergency was declared and the constitution suspended.
The government compound remains abandoned. Deposed cabinet ministers are still under arrest, and the ousted Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has been moved to a secret military location. A few people here have been on the streets demanding elections, but overwhelmingly the people of Pakistan are left waiting, recognizing the power vacuum that now exists. But in this desperately poor nation, corrupt governments and military dictatorships are nothing new. That is one reason why people appear indifferent to the prospects of more army rule. Many here talk of their shame, of a country that is a nuclear power, but unable to provide political stability or economic hope to its people. It now appears the coup was well organized militarily, but politically many questions remain unanswered. Robert Moore, ITN, Islamabad.
There appeared to be a major breakthrough today in the hunt for the killer of Jill Dando. Police arrested a man over the theft of a Range Rover seen near the presenter's home, but he was released after just a few hours. Terry Lloyd has the details.
The blue Range Rover caught on closed-circuit TV had just been driven through red lights close to where Jill Dando was murdered. It was earlier seen parked in her street. Today, detectives arrested a man in connection with the vehicle, but he was released after less than 4 hours. In May, police thought they'd arrested their prime suspect, the so-called sweating man, seen at a bus stop near Miss Dando's home, yet he was also let go without charge. So how far has the murder investigation got? A special 50-strong murder team is still working on leads. Scotland Yard say they are making progress. An e-fit of the main suspect was released in April. Police thought they knew their man. Thousands of mobile calls made from the area still have to be analysed, and police say they have yet to eliminate around 80 lower-level suspects. Jill Dando was one of TV's most popular celebrities, but despite the telephone calls and tip-offs, another avenue of inquiry seems to have closed today. Almost 6 months into the most high-profile murder case of the decade, and detectives have made just 2 arrests which have led nowhere. And tonight, Scotland Yard refused to confirm or deny if the Range Rover is still part of their inquiry. Terry Lloyd, ITN, Central London.
An RAF Tornado crashed in Northumberland today, killing its pilot and navigator. They were named tonight as Flight Lieutenants Richard Wright and Sean Casabeo. Wreckage of their plane was found strewn across 400 yards of a field. The crew had been on an exercise from RAF Lossiemouth in Scotland. The Tornado is the type that was used in the air campaigns against Serbia and Iraq. Britain's biggest mortgage lenders came under fire today in a report which listed the 10 most complained about companies. The Consumers Association said lenders needed an urgent dose of regulation. Here's Chris Choi.
Halifax is the biggest of 10 home loan firms named for using tactics the Consumers Association claims are unfair. Tonight, lenders face unprecedented pressure and new legal threats.
This industry has a completely rip-off mentality. It will carry on putting dreadful small print clauses into contracts, unfair, unclear, and doing a disservice to the consumer.
The Consumers Association named lenders they'd had most complaints about, including Halifax, which topped the league. They're followed by Abbey National, Northern Rock, Woolwich, Nationwide and NatWest. Most mortgage complaints were about penalty charges for ending a contract early and interest payments being calculated yearly rather than daily, which can cost customers money.
We reject the idea that there's systematic abuse within the system. Consumer Association have picked up 1,000 cases out of 10 million, 11 million mortgage borrowers, 1.5 million transactions in a year. It's a tiny proportion of the total.
Tonight, Halifax led the counterattack, saying that the biggest firms are bound to have the greatest number of complaints and that their new mortgages have no extended penalties. But this is said to be much more than just a war of words. The Consumers Association has new power to take legal action. Chris Choi, ITN, Central London.
Julius Nyerere, the founding president of Tanzania and one of Africa's most respected leaders, died today. He led his country from independence in 1961 until 1985, when he became one of the first post-colonial African leaders to step down voluntarily. He was suffering from cancer and died at St Thomas's Hospital in London, aged 77. President Clinton launched a bitter attack on the Republican-led Senate tonight after it rejected an international treaty banning the testing of nuclear weapons. He called the Senate's decision reckless. James Mates reports.
The Senate majority has turned its back.
It was a clearly angry President Clinton who gave a press conference this evening denouncing the decision by Senate Republicans to derail a central plank of his foreign policy. This treaty was important to him, and he went to great efforts to reassure the rest of the world that, whatever Congress says, U.S. policy has not changed.
We're not going to test. I signed that treaty. It still binds us unless I go, in effect, and erase our name. Unless the president does that and takes our name off, we are bound by it.
The yeas are 48, the nays are 51. The resolution is not agreed to.
But the reality is he came nowhere near winning the two-thirds majority he needed in the Senate, and that means there's no chance of China or Russia ratifying the treaty either. And as many pointed out, there's much less pressure on India and Pakistan now not to test.
You want to be voting down a treaty on the day that there is a coup in Pakistan. Good luck, folks. Good luck.
Can the treaty still be saved? Probably not while President Clinton's in office. If his successor is a Democrat, they could try again for ratification. But if a Republican wins next time, the treaty is probably dead. James Mates, ITN, Washington.
Rugby and the Welsh fly-half Neil Jenkins made history today by becoming the highest international point scorer. But his record failed to fight off defeat in the World Cup clash against Samoa. Here's Peter Staunton.
This should have been one of the greatest days in Neil Jenkins' long career. Yet it'll go down as the match Wales lost on missed penalties. He is now officially the world's greatest kicker. This one broke Michael Lyner's record of 911 points. But Welsh cheers were soon stifled as their team threw away a hard-earned lead, handing the Samoans their first try. Then presenting another gift wrapped. The Welsh had lost famously to Western Samoa in the past. Now it really was the whole of Samoa that was piling on the agony. And they saved the best till last. Wales well beaten but still remarkably leading their group. Samoa celebrated another victory against the odds. Earlier, New Zealand wound themselves up for another assault on the scoreboard. Jonah Lomu looking for the points which would take him to a World Cup record. He needed 2 tries to pass Rory Underwood's total. The first came as he sneaked in from behind the scrum. The second, a typical unstoppable run. England's defence had got closer. Italy wisely stayed out of harm's way and were heading for a cricket score defeat. Peter Staunton, ITN Sport.
So confirmation of those results. New Zealand beat Italy by 101 points to 3. Wales lost 31-38 to Samoa. Australia won 55-19 against the US, and the Canada-Namibia game ended 72-11. 2 British film stars who missed out in the Oscars earlier this year tonight picked up major titles. Sir Ian McKellen and Emily Watson were both honoured at the British Independent Film Awards. Helen Wright was there.
Angelica Houston, one of Hollywood's most enduring actresses, arrived at tonight's awards to celebrate some of Britain's newest talent. Among the leading lights of British independent film, also on hand to honour the independent sector, actress Kathy Burke. The awards recognise films made in British studios with mostly British funding, which, according to Alan Rickman, are a vital alternative to Hollywood blockbusters.
Crucial if you want to have proper stories being told and not products that are just geared to getting as many people into a cinema, to as many shows a day as possible.
This is not going to look good.
This as yet unreleased film about the lives of 10 Londoners, called Wonderland, won the Best Film Award. Film veteran Ian McKellen won Best Actor for his role in Gods and Monsters, while Emily Watson's portrayal of troubled cellist Jacqueline Dupre secured her the Best Actress Award.
Tonight's ceremony is not just about celebrating the achievements of British talent, it's about attracting more British money to British independent film to finance upcoming talent that may not otherwise get a chance.
And presenting an award for newcomers tonight, Diana Ross in one of her first British engagements since her arrest at Heathrow Airport. These awards will never rival the Oscars, but they highlight the increasing strength of British film. Helen Wright, ITN.
The headlines again. The Conservative leader William Hague announced tonight that he's to mount a nationwide campaign to save the pound. And the new military regime in Pakistan tonight declared a state of emergency. Its army chief made himself chief executive. Tonight's financial figures. The FTSE 100 share index continued to fall sharply, closing down 74 points. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones ended 54 points higher, and the pound rose a fraction of a cent against the dollar. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's newspapers. And the row over Europe dominates the front pages. The Telegraph shows Tony Blair, Michael Heseltine and Kenneth Clarke at today's launch of the cross-party alliance on Europe. The Independent says Tony Blair has fired the starting gun to put Britain into the single currency. Its main picture is Samoa's shock win over Wales in the Rugby World Cup. The Guardian says William Hague has hit back over Europe, promising to do full-blooded battle for the pound. And it claims that 2 Metropolitan Police race relations advisors have quit because of racial abuse from officers. The Mirror also pictures the launch of the Pro-Europe campaign, saying the Battle of Europe has finally erupted for real. And the Mail says Vauxhall has started a car price war by cutting £1,000 off its prices. It also claims Manchester United star David Beckham has bought a new house 200 miles away from Old Trafford. And that's it from the ITV Nightly News. From me, have a very good night.